Now, I've talked about this a lot in the past, and I'll mention it again here because it is very relevant. In 1994, and this is something that Barbara Hanclaw also has talked a lot about, and it really resonates as a deep truth for me. So this is why I mention it. In 1994, the Shoemaker-Levy hit Jupiter, and it was like this massive atomic blast, and it was so massive. I believe the metaphor made for this, or the is it an allegory? Well, anyway, it is said that the blast was so massive. It's like if you took all the nuclear weapons on planet Earth times at times 500 and set them off, that is the magnitude of the blast of Shoemaker-Levy had on Jupiter. And if you look at Jupiter as a being that is holding a matrix of consciousness for humanity to have an experience, you can see how this would create a massive rift subatomically, right, interdimensionally in that matrix. Okay. And that is also the time that several indigenous leaders, elders, said that that was the sign they were, that's the sign they were looking for to release these teachings. The mystery school teachings were to be taught to outsiders, to people that were not in the tribe, people who were not initiates. And there were many different mystery schools on this planet that existed and still do exist, but that Shoemaker-Levy, that subatomic, or that atomic blast, that splitting of the subatomic realms, the opening of the spiritual matrix for our reality, was so deep and so vast that that actually cracked the secrecy, cracked all of the mechanisms put in place to hold the mystery schools in this, to contain them in this way, where very few people got to experience the teachings, the wisdom, the transmissions, especially, that awaken a fully realized human being. Very, very few humans had access to that before that time. And now, fast forward 30 years later, the transmissions are given freely to anybody who wants them. I know more than one tradition that does this, that allows for this. Okay. So this is a huge catalyst for humanity to wake up out of these old patterns, to transcend these old matrices that were holding our consciousness in a particular perspective. It's happening en masse, just like they talked about it was going to happen. And when I say they, it's the Mayans, it's the Inca. There's bone mystery, bone teachings about this. There's, who else? There's Hopi teachings about this. There's Ojibwe teachings about this. I mean, there's indigenous lore talking about this time, prophecy, if you will, talking about this time. And it's all coming to pass, as they said. It's just that when we first heard the lore, we couldn't imagine what it would look like. It didn't imagine like it was even possible. But here we are. Here it is. This is how it's possible. That opening of these matrices that have held our perspective in a very limited way are now blasted wide open. People are receiving these transmissions, they're digesting them, they're passing them on, they're integrating them, they're changing their lives to live according to what's true for them, and therefore the change is happening en masse, just like it was talked about. Okay, so this being known as Jupiter, the face of Jupiter is never going to be the same, because of this subatomic cracking that happened in the field of Jupiter. That matrix that was cracked open that Jupiter holds, remember, by the pattern of how he revolves around the sun with the earth as we hurtle through space, right? We're all hurling through space like 100,000 miles a second together. And all the planets are whirling around the sun as we travel. So they are holding a matrix. in place. It's like a bunch of waves, a bunch of geometry, holding light, holding sound, holding consciousness as we go through the vastness of space. That's cracked wide open. It's been so for 30 years. And now we are seeing the results of this. That means time, the way it's been kept, time, the way we've perceived it, the way we related to it, the way we've understood it, is a major fabric that we can now start to step out of and question. Okay? For example, for those of you that live, let me step back before I go down to that sentence. You guys notice that you can notice when you're in tune or when you're in rhythm with the natural cycles. Okay, things just kind of seem relaxed or more easy, at peace. When we're at rhythm with the natural cycles, there's like this extra that's present in our biosuit, in our bodies. And you guys, for those of you that live in states that have daylight savings, I know it seems ridiculous, it's just an hour, but you guys notice how it feels when daylight savings happens? It's like everything's just kind of off. It's like, you know, when our dog has since passed, but when we had a dog, it's like daylight savings would happen, and which means her feeding schedule would change, and she'd be at that bowl like clockwork. It didn't matter that the time changed. She wanted food right now. This is her time. She knows tonight this is the right time for food. Right? And it would take her a couple months to adjust to the new time, to the new timing. Okay, so this is an example, a small example of how timekeeping interrupts our natural rhythms when we're, with Mother Nature, with the cosmos. The more in tune with the rhythms we are, the healthier we are, the stronger our bodies are, the more resilient our homeostasis is. There's so many things that work out right with our physicality as we integrate and become more in harmony with the natural rhythms, natural cycles, including our capacity of creating the world we want, dreaming the world into being. Now, the disruptions of time, the disruptions of these hiccups, these mechanisms don't completely rob us of the capacity of dreaming the world into being. It doesn't, but it definitely makes it less accessible. It's like it's a little harder, it takes more effort to step into that part of your being, the dreamscape, the dream space, the part of you that's actually participating in creating this reality, the part of you that can manifest something, give birth to something out of nothing. Okay, this is a part of you that's always in action, always active, talking to you, reaching out to you, speaking to you in every moment, but we're just not aware because of all this noise. And the rhythm of time is one of those things that keep us out of step with getting in touch with that part of ourselves. Until we wake up to it, then we can start taking measures, in the direction of what we need to be more in rhythm. And being in rhythm could be, it could be just little tweaks that you need to do. It could just be little tweaks. It doesn't need to be big tweaks.